Seriously?
What? It's a snake.
Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Today, let's take a little look at the NECA Dungeons and Dragons Ultimate Warduke and Grimsword. Now, I think I've said it before. I wasn't into Dungeons and Dragons at all. My only exposure was the 80s cartoon, and I did have the LJN Zarek. But at the time, I didn't know what it was. It just hung around with my other toy lines, mostly in Castle Grayskull. But the Warduke design is just iconic. Even without the Dungeons and Dragons background, you still recognize it in some form or fashion. And when NECA announced these, I was interested purely from an action figure standpoint and because, well, Warduke just looks badass. But I didn't throw any pre-orders in. I figured, I'll just wait. So I'll be damned if Amok Time didn't put up both of them at the same time as a package deal, and I thought, you know what, that's too good to pass up. And here we are, a week after I did the Hasbro Dungeons and Dragons figures. Was there a timing thing going on there? So it is written, we must wait till January 2023 for all D&D items to release. Or maybe it just got held up at the factory, who knows? Anyway, toys. Let's start with Grimsword, or Grimsword Evil Knight. With a family name like that, he never had a chance. But in case you forget, evil action figures. Good grief, do I love this artwork. Ooh, and there's a nifty background insert. Look at this big slab of action figure beef. It's so thick. Knowing nothing about Dungeons and Dragons, I just look at this and it feels like one of those characters that you do not want chasing you down. And he's not going to be running. He's not even going to be walking fast. He's just kind of shambling along. He's chasing you and he's chasing you and you run and you get away a little bit, then you start to tire out and he just keeps on coming. And then you run again, get some distance from him. Whew, I lost him. No! Now, when they first listed this, I looked at it and thought, ooh, kind of went overboard with the snakes, didn't they? Got this one wrapping around his torso. It goes from the tail and it goes around and it twists and all the way to here. And it has the tongue sticking out up this big honking shoulder pad. I have the snake down on the knee pad. But now that I have it in hand, it's a child of the 80s, really. Where they take a motif for a character and just plaster it on them, because it's not really as overdone as I thought it would be. There's a whole lot more just badass looking armor. This helmet with the mohawk coming right down the middle and these spikes, what are those for? It doesn't matter, because they're red and pointy. You're not going to be slapping him upside the head. That's the last thing you're going to do. And while we're up this close, look at those eyes, just fiery flames peering out at you from the blackness underneath the helmet, and the rivets and the dry brush. And I didn't notice this until just now. Do not mess with Grimsword, because it's the same with the chest armor, and there it almost seems like pot metal. He doesn't really care about keeping it clean and pretty. This is utilitarian. He wants to be protected while he's out there trying to take over the realm. Have the mail over the body parts. It goes down to here, and then under the armor, then it starts peeking out in places. The red at the elbows is actually an overlay, so you see some silver under there, and it's the same at the knees all the way around. So there's some more silver down there, back at the top of the leg, at the neck, under the helmet, and hell, places that you're not going to see 90% of the time. Look at that. It's on the torso under this. Some plates on the thighs, coming down to the boots. Have some straps on the forearms under here holding the plates on. I mean, not really, it's sculpted to be that way, but if this was real life, that's how it would work. Heavy armored hands. I'm just realizing this is a soft overlay piece too. Get out of the way of the hands. This is stiff. This is tough. It gets in the way of this arm. But again, like I talked about with the helmet, what sets off all these dark armor pieces is that silver dry brush. It's heavy at the edges and then it just kind of wears in towards the centers. The high spots are nicely highlighted, just all over. Does Grimsword have talons? Oh, and the dry brush to the snake is nice too. And the mail, everything. Nice sculpt, beautiful paints. I could have saved 2 minutes by just saying that, but I wanted to take a look at all that extra detail. I do have an oddball thing here. There's hinge and swivels at the knee, and this one, you can see that it's straight and the leg's forward. The right leg facing forward, the knee kicks to the inside. And I think it's because the silver part is actually separate maybe, and it's not seated correctly into the lower leg. It's sticking in there and out there, whereas on the left, it's flush all the way around. But in the grand scheme of things, of me posing it, either like this or in action, it doesn't matter, because hinge and swivel there, you can put the leg forward. When you need to bend it, it may go to the inside a little, but not much. And then you just turn it. It's not a huge deal. And then, of course, there's Warduke. Does he have a last name? No, he just hangs out with Kellic. Love the presentation with the pretty promotional shot, and then you can see figure, accessories, everything. And again, I may have to cut these flaps off because that is amazing. Evil action figure. And it's the same backdrop insert, just a red sky instead of blue. Where Grimsword had the heftiness, Warduke has the litheness, almost acrobatic. If he's chasing you, he's gonna be running. Or well, I guess he had a horse too, didn't he? Maybe he'll just full on gallop, run your ass down. And this is such a great design. If it wasn't for the pointy parts and the batwing that always makes you think bad guy, it's almost kind of a hero design. They usually have the exposed flesh. In fact, if you look at it like this, there's your good guy.
Then there's your bad guy.
All of this is over. In fact, there you go. But it's all the same sculpt, or at least glued together in places. Even this necklace, it is a separate piece, but there's a tab right here where it's attached to the harness. That way it's not going to be flopping around, getting out of place. This shoulder pad also floats to get out of the way of the head or the arm. Then it comes down and is attached at the belt. There, and on the front. And that's nice. It's not all willy-nilly, this falling off or down or around, but it does kind of get in the way of torso articulation. You can still move it, but it's not as free as you would think it would be. Saying that, you have this big championship belt coming around with the studs and the skull right there on the front of the crotch. But with the fur hanging down here and further in the front and far down in the back, you would think that would get in the way of the legs, but it is a softer material. Plus, they didn't sculpt anything in front of the actual legs, so whoop, it does come forward. This sheath is attached and it has all these nice little gold ornaments and this red jewel thing. Same thing for the sword scabbard, although that is pretty smooth, but there's your straps, there's your gold, there's your gem. Got this pouch on the back with the gold clasp. I love little paint apps like this gold around the bottom of the blue spikes. Speaking of those, again, this is rubbery, but if you're not careful, those will stab you. You can bend them, but they're also pretty sharp. Same thing with the armor plate here on the left boot. These stabbies will get you. Then on the right boot, you have the pirate cuff, some more of those gems. Silver armband, silver bracelet, then blue metallic scale on the arm and the leg, which looks wonderful, with a silver gauntlet coming down over the left hand. And I love that you can see the separation between the leather glove and then the armor bits on top, because you turn it and look, oh, there's the hand inside. And I'm noticing the blue has a dry brush on top of it too. Here, it's hard to see. You get up close, focus. It gives it even more metallic look. I think we can all agree that this is the focal point. That shiny metal blue for the helmet, the bat wings on the side, more spikes because, he's bad guy, spikes all over the place. And that has some dry brushing too to show some wear, some tear. It also looks like there's an inner helmet or a face mask of some kind because there's a hard edge right there under that, ooh, those evil red eyes. So there's no facial features besides the eye sculpt. I'm happy to see that the knee doesn't look, well, okay, yeah, it comes down like that, but in most poses, if he's like running, you're not going to notice it. In some of the promo shots, I think it was out to the side like this, and because it's a hinge and swivel, the boot will turn to here. So it looked weird. Thankfully, there's a swivel up here too. Get it all straightened out. Looks more natural. Well, I say that. There's a swivel up here at the hip. There's a swivel at the knee. There's a swivel at the top of the boot too. So there's a chance that you'll get it offset, but yeah, it has enough twists and turns that you can just put it into place. Look, painted nipples. And now that I'm this close, there's a wash to the musculature. Just enough to help pop it out a bit. It just adds to the overall paint apps. Some are subtle, some aren't. It all just works beautifully together. But while we're talking articulation, Grimsword's side stabbies do turn up and down. So if you like it more like this, you can turn it to there or have them down. That's how they were in the package, but if I understand correctly, they're supposed to go forward a bit. Then there is it is so hard to see what's under there. I'm guessing it's a dumbbell joint with a ball at the bottom. You can look up quite a bit. There's actually some shift forward and back, look down. So much tilt, which is great for a big boy like this. Side to side. Pin coming out to the shoulder, rotates around, but like I said, that's a hard piece right there, so you have to kind of flex out, go around. Here, look, the left does it. Hinge to bring the arm up to here. Swivel at the bicep. Hinge and swivel at the elbow. Even with that flexi right there, it kind of gets in the way. Well, okay, it's also bulky. It's got a lot of armor. It barely reaches 90. Swivels in and out. Swivel at the wrist with a hell of a lot of range in the hinge. Torso, I think it's hard to see. While this is soft, it still gets in the way. That snake is actually constricting. A little forward, little back, little tilt, some rotation. Ball at the hip comes up to here. This is a flexi piece. Goes, well, way back. Out. Oh, that's better than a lot of Spider-Mans. Assembly in there allows for a rotation most of the way around. But then the hinge and swivel at the knee also rotates and bends to about right there. Well, damn, that flexes too. I'm still discovering stuff here. You can rotate at the foot. Hinges back a little bit, forward-facing pin for rocker. For Warduke, it looks like there's a dumbbell at the top of the neck. Look up, look down. Those aren't soft. Again, with the tilt, if you move this shoulder pad out of the way, boop, left and right. Pin at the shoulder rotates all the way around and then hinges up to 90. Swivel at the bicep. Hinges swivel at the elbow. Again, only comes to 90 and then rotates in and out. Swivel at the wrist with a hinge. Torso cut across gets you some forward, some back, a little bit of tilt, some rotation. In this case, if there's anything at the waist, the belt's in the way. Like we talked about, this is flexi. The ball at the hip comes up to here. Back, out. Well, it gets a little more in the way, but that's not bad. Swivels at the hip. Hinge at the knee comes back to here and then rotates. Swivel at the top of the boots. Hinge goes back to here, forward, then front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, Grimsword has 2 open clawed hands. He also comes with 2 fists, 2 triggery type pointing fingers, and then 2 grip hands. And for those, you're going to need weapons like this sword. I love the design of this. It's simple, but it's also sinister. It has this kickback, it has this curve. It's kind of no nonsense. And then for the handle, there's some reds, there's some golds, there's some blacks. It fits Grimsword. Maybe this is a Grimsword. The hands are flexy, so you can open it up, shove that in there, boom, done. But if you don't want them holding the sword, this snake tail right here isn't just a fashion statement. The blade's thinner up towards the grip. Get it in there, twist it, push it down. It doubles as a scabbard, and it looks great. I think I'm going to be using this flail. Again, spiky, kind of sharp. Don't be poking it into places you don't want to be poked. And then the grip and the stick is snake. Look at that. It even has the mouth open, the tongue sticking out, and that fits the overall design. There you go. There's also a snake-themed kite. For those windy, warm days that Grimsword has off, maybe he just wants to relax a little. Well, you know I'm just being a dumbass. This is actually a shield. It may be hollow in places, but it is still a lot of plastic. What's cool about it, the straps on the back are rubbery. Again, with the paint apps, the wash on the snake, the golds, the reds, that silver dry brush on the black. Do you have to remove the hand in order? No, hell no, you don't. You just slide it right on. Hey, I like snakes. For Warduke, there's 2 grip hands. Then there's another grip hand where at first I was like, why does it come with 2 of the same hand? But the hole sizes are just slightly different, both in shape and size. Then there's a clawed open armored hand for the left and a pointer for the right.
I want you to join Warduke.
I'm guessing the 2 grip hands are different sizes because of the different sizes on the handles. There's this dagger, silver blade, got some blue, got some red, got some gold. And it also comes with this sheath, same blue, same gold. It has a real chain on it right here. And then there's a ring here on the belt. I think it was attached in the package, but I forgot to pull this out. And when I ripped the figure out, I popped it off the ring. There is an there it is, an opening to it right there. So I'm going to attempt to put this back together. And just close the ring back up and hopefully, oh no, did I put it on backwards? It'll still work. Not very tight though, slides right out. Then there's this other dagger, a bit more menacing with the curve to it. Fits the overall color scheme with the blues and the silvers and the slight dirtiness. That goes on the right hip and is much, much tighter. And then there's Warduke's sword, no frills. Well, okay, there's a couple of kick-ins right here that makes it really hurt when he's running somebody through. Then it's pretty flat to the guard and then wraps, pommel. That's actually a claw holding a ball. Again, a tarnish to it. You can put it in the sheath. And, well, that's tight too. That's not just going to fall out. But it's Warduke, so he's got a grippy hand for that. There's extra thickness to the left hand, though, because of the armored bits, but it still flexes open quite a bit. Get that through, and there you go. This has some flex to it, too. It's not just going to snap. Ooh. There's something else that's very Warduke, and it's this shield. Big hunk o' plastic. I know I've said that several times during this review, but this thing is solid. Even the back has all the detail work. It just looks like a skull on some beat metal. They changed it up a little bit, I guess because of the shape, but this has the flex strap and a handle that's stiffer. I find it's easier on any shield person to pop the hand off and then put it on there and pop the hand back on. So damn good. That's not all. One last accessory is the flame piece for the sword. Translucent plastic, got yellow, working its way into oranges. It just looks nice. This is supposed to slip over, but yeah, I was warned about this. It is super tight. So we're gonna need the Johnny Storm 5000 just to soften it up a bit. Let's see what that does. Oh, yeah. Much easier. Am I going to have to display it like that? I think I will. Okay, you can just turn it around whichever direction you want to go. Size-wise, Warduke is about 7 1/4 to the top of the helmet and 8 up to the top of the wings, while Grimsword is, he's 8 1/4 up to the top of his helmet. 7-inch scale works great with McFarlane's DC Multiverse or Spawn lines, but will tower over most of the other lines I talk about on here, like Hasbro Star Wars Black Series or Marvel Legends. Can y'all take on Pete? Looks oddly okay with Hasbro's Dungeons and Dragons Cartoon Classics Venger, though. I mean, size-wise, not quite stylistically. They are way bigger than Hank, but I'm not against this. I don't know. So at the end of the day, I am super happy with both of these figures. I already knew they were going to look fantastic, so that's not a surprise. The sculpts, all the details, the paints, beautiful. But they're a lot more dynamic than I thought they would be. Don't get me wrong, it's not the greatest amount of range in like the knees or the elbows, but they get around a lot better than you would think with all the gear and the armor and the bulkiness. And if I had to pick just one, like I said, I was going to grab Warduke regardless, but I gotta go with Grimsword. I know, that surprises me too. I think it's because it's new to me. Warduke's been a mental image for 40 years. It's been one of those things of, if there's ever a great action figure, I'll grab it. But with Grimsword, it's my first experience with the snakes and the greens and the blacks and the silvers and the males and the pointies and everything. It's crazy how I kind of thought it was tacky when it was listed, but now it's damn awesome. Do not get me wrong, Warduke is Warduke. He is a badass, both in look and in plastic form. But Grimsword, he scares me a little bit more. I can't explain it. The heart wants what the heart wants. If you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus if you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, always catch you on the Fwoosh.